I spent most of my early childhood with my grandparents. And honestly, a lot of who I am and how I see the world comes from that time. My grandfather and I used to go on bike rides every single day to the park. And he used to turn it into a full experience. There was neighborhood gossip, there was candy, and there were very casual detours. And on the other hand, my grandmother, she used to let me help her cook using plastic birthday knives. We both agreed it was a safety feature. Now, looking back at those precious moments, if there's something important that it taught me, it's patience. And that learning doesn't always have to look so serious. Sometimes it can look like trial and error, and sometimes it can look a little ridiculous, like cutting onions using birthday knives. A few years later, commuting for my parents in a city like Bangalore, where traffic can easily drive you insane, was hard. And so we shifted to the other half of the city. And that's when I noticed something, that staying connected suddenly got so much more harder. And especially because the world went digital after COVID, I could video call my friends, tell them everything about my day, that I did this, that, but not my grandparents. But that changed when my grandfather finally installed WhatsApp. And now every morning, I wake up to a good morning message, a family photo from years ago, and without exaggeration, at least 10 spiritual forwards. He's like a spiritual influencer now. And on the other hand, my grandmother, I taught her how to use Google Pay, a UPI payment app. And now she's way better than I am. And just the other day, we were scanning a QR code, and she said, "Riya, just give me the phone, I'll do it quicker than you." That was my first real lesson in this space. That older people don't really hate technology. They just don't like being made feel stupid by it. Because they're living their life for the very first time too. And we often think of old age as the end of learning. They've never been 70 before. They've never had to scan a QR code just to buy groceries. Or they've never had to FaceTime a doctor for an appointment. But despite all of this, they're not bad with technology. They're just new at it. And here's the thing, the world doesn't give you time to be new anymore. Last year, I started volunteering with an organization based off in Canada where I help the elderly install new apps, try out new websites, help them with technology that can sometimes feel very overwhelming. And it was 2 a.m. my time because of the time difference, and I was helping out Susan, who might genuinely be the sweetest person ever. And I was helping her install Windows 11, and she kept saying, "Riya, please go grab a snack. This might take hours for us to do." But guess what? Just 20 to 30 minutes later, we installed whatever she wanted. And she kept saying, "I didn't think this was that easy." And that sentence really stuck with me. Because it isn't the intelligence or the complexity of the system that confuses people, but rather the effort that it takes. And I noticed another pattern, that technology doesn't just confuse older adults, but completely excludes them, leaves them behind. And that wasn't very pleasant to hear. So I searched this up, and to put things into perspective, I discovered that about 1 in 3 seniors worldwide struggle to use technology independently. And that is about 1 billion people slowly being disconnected from their worlds. And that was extremely shocking to me. And so, I realized that this is not a failure of anyone's ability, but rather a failure of design. Because we often design technology for people who already feel very comfortable with it. And then we act surprised when they fall through the cracks. And so, I stopped asking, how do we build or build programs or whatever to help them learn technology better, and started asking the question, how do we design technology that asks less of them? And this very question led me down two closely related paths. The first one became Vision Accelerate. As people age, it isn't just technology that confuses them, but rather the cognitive overload. And especially for patients with dementia, that challenge becomes even more intense. So Vision Accelerate is a pair of assistive AI smart glasses designed to reduce the very mental effort that takes them through their very challenging routines. We built features such as recognizing familiar faces, because one of the key symptoms of having the condition dementia is to not be able to recognize faces or objects that were once very familiar to them. So using convolutional neural network technology, I was able to build features that can recognize people, objects, and familiar voices. And all of this is seamlessly integrated using an AI assistant which mimics the exact voice of their loved one and speaks with emotional intelligence so that they have a sense of comfort and don't feel like they're just talking to a robot. And one of the biggest concerns when I talk to caregivers was safety. Two things here. The first one is fall detection. People often lose balance and motor skills, which lead to extreme falls, and they're prone to injuries. So a slight reminder to their caregivers whenever they suffer from an injury to have reassurance really helps. And the second one was GPS tracking. A key symptom is wandering. So a very, very small slight reassurance that your loved one is safe and they're here can go a very long way for a caregiver. And a centralized reminder system providing reminders for hydration, food intake, and medication intake can help the patient go through their routine seamlessly. I remember in about 8th grade or so, my teacher asked me, Riya, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Well, I just don't see myself. I see a pair of Vision Accelerate with every single dementia patient all across the world. And to manifest this, I will be putting in efforts this upcoming year testing this with elderly communities. But while working on this, I encountered another challenge. It's that not everyone really approaches the healthcare system when everything looks fine and euphoric on the outside, but things slightly start to go wrong on the inside. This means that there are not enough people that guide the elderly towards the medical healthcare system until the symptoms aggressively start to disrupt their routine. And one such neurological condition is Parkinson's. Parkinson's is one of the fastest growing neurological conditions globally. And by the time an individual gets a formal diagnosis done, about 60 to 80% of their dopamine-producing neurons are already lost. And this is shocking. But I also discovered that one of the earliest symptoms and biomarkers of Parkinson's isn't just the tremors or the jitters characterized by shaky hands, but rather by the micro-level changes in people's voice. So I thought to myself, what if we could use this very voice and detect Parkinson's in it? So this technical part was very interesting and it intrigued me because I love computer science. But something else bothered me and was much more interesting for me. It's that where this innovation could work. In many rural areas all across the world, especially in countries like India, access to neurologists is extremely limited. People take days, weeks, and even months just to get in contact. So my pipeline was simple. What if there's no matter where there's a hospital or a neurologist or a studio recording, but there is something almost similar nearby, a smartphone. So what if we could use a smartphone to take 30-second voice samples of patients, process it through an algorithm deployed on the smartphone, and give output whether they have Parkinson's or not. And using my previous experience with working with Alzheimer's patients, I thought I could introduce dual functionality to this app by helping the app detect either Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. My recent accuracy score is as of at 86% right now. I will be focusing on strengthening my technical skills, gaining access to more data set to help increase this to a 92%, which is a very excellent clinical standard for a pre-screening tool by the National Institutes of Health. Now, whether it was a pre-screening tool or the glasses, the goal was pretty much the same: to reduce friction, increase access, and to make care reach earlier and not later. When I think back to my grandmother allowing me to cut vegetables using that plastic knife, well, the knife wasn't really impressive. It looked very boring. But at least it made learning safe for me. And maybe that is the point, and that's how technology should feel like too. We often talk about the next 1 billion users. Where are they? We built so many cool stuff for them. But here's the thing. The next 1 billion users are already here. They're the ones quietly waiting for us on our dining tables, repeating the same stories again and again. They're the ones who press the wrong button accidentally and apologize later. And they're also the ones who slowly cross the road. They've built families, they've built people, they've built us. And it's hard to realize that they've also built the world that we're now busy upgrading. We don't need to teach them how to belong, because they already do. We just need to design like we remember that. Because progress doesn't always look like revolutionizing the world quicker, faster, rapidly for the people who can already use technology, but rather slowing down for the people who have already lived very full lives for us. Thank you so much, and have a great day.